Georgetta Foreman, thank you so much for coming down here to Hennessey Studios.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
I appreciate it. So first of all, do you live in LA or did you travel to be here?
No, I live in LA.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I'm a Texas native.
Okay.
All the Foremans, that's where we come from.
Yeah.
But I went to school here at Pepperdine in Malibu.
Cool.
So once you go Malibu, it's hard to go back,
I can't think that there's another school that has a nicer view than that one. Huh?
Hard to beat.
It is so hard to beat. When I drive by that campus, I'm like, why couldn't I went here?
Right.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And you have to have good grades to get into a school like that.
Yeah, I do.
So you did good in school.
I did good.
You did good in school.
Yeah.
Got it. So, speaking of school, I think we have something in common because I have two boys that just graduated high school.
What? Congratulations.
Thank you. And don't you have somebody that's graduating here?
I do. This weekend, the eldest is graduating from Culver Academies in Indiana. So we're flying out to the cornfields.
Okay.
She'll be headed off. The plan is now she'll be at Howard this fall.
Howard.
So we're looking forward to it.
Very cool.
Do your sons have plans yet?
So my one son is going to just do a community college.
Good.
And then maybe transfer to a different school later. And then my other son, I think, is going to go down the entrepreneurial path.
I love both options.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Right. So as long as we as parents can kind of support them, and they don't have all the answers, right? They just got to figure it out the hard way, like we did.
Yep. Remember, even when I was saying it's like the plan now, because between now and fall, there's when school starts, you just never know.
You never know.
I'm here to support.
Plans change, exactly. So you have two daughters?
I have two daughters.
Okay.
One is 19, and the other one is 8.
8?
And she runs the place. She's the real leader. We follow. I pretend like I'm not following her, but she's the master.
Yeah. So I similar. So I've got a 19-year-old boy and then a 17-year-old boy. And then my wife and I started all over, and we have a 5-year-old daughter.
We have a lot in common here.
Yes, we
this.
do. Yes, we do. So what is your 8-year-old daughter, and what's her name?
8-year-old is Kendall.
Okay.
And the 19-year-old is Jessica.
Jessica. And what's your 8-year-old into?
She's a dancer. She probably, if I'd let her, she'd be professional at TikTok, like all the kids now. And she's loves gymnastics. She's a strong kid. And she, with COVID and all, we really haven't got to immerse her into it the way we want to. But I'm looking forward to that because she loves it. And she's a people person.
Yeah.
She's all of that, as they say.
That's awesome. So going back to when you were 8 years old, what was that like?
When I was 8 years old, funny you should ask, because it makes you think. Yeah. I was into singing. You couldn't have told me I wasn't going to grow up to be Diana Ross.
Is that right?
Yeah. But I think somewhere in my brain I was like, you probably should aim differently.
Yeah.
And then I went into broadcasting. I just knew that I'd grow up and I'd be on the Today Show.
Yeah.
Hosting. And that didn't happen either, but here we are. So good life.
It's not too late.
It's not too late.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
No, we'll talk. I think you got a pretty famous dad that did things later in life, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So you grew up with a large family?
Yeah. With large family. Let's see. My father, George Foreman there, he had 10 children in all.
10 children.
So that's a lot of people, a lot of personalities. I've learned to love people and then find my space. I was that girl, like, let me get my Fisher-Price radio and let me go in the corner. So, great childhood. No complaints here.
No complaints. And, the story is, your dad named all of his boys George, right?
Yeah.
And then Georgetta, but not all the other girls are Georgetta, right?
That is so strange because I hear different stories because the older I get, clearly he named all these boys George because he always says that it's because, you get yourself hit in the head a couple times, you're not going to remember. But it was also a deeper thing. Like he learned later in life who his biological father was. Okay. So he wanted to make sure no matter what, that his kids would always know who he, know that you're connected to someone else.
Sure.
And when it came to Georgetta, I've heard many stories. My mother said, I named her. No, my mother said the doctor named me.
Okay.
My dad said, well, she must have called me the doctor. So I'll never get the real story, but I'm here. So
You're here.
And then my sister was Frida George Foreman.
Frida George Foreman. Okay, got it. And so did everybody have nicknames then? In
all the
house?
boys.
Okay.
There was George Jr., which we call Little George. There was Monk. There's Big Will, Red, and Joe.
Joe. And where's everybody living? Are they all over or?
Mostly, now my brother Monk, George III, is out here in Calabasas. He just opened a gym called Craft Boxing.
Okay.
So he's always up for some fun. So it's nice to have someone on this side of the world with me.
Yeah.
One of the Foremans. And then also I have a sister in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then everyone else is in Texas. They're not leaving.
They're all in Texas.
Texas. They're every bit of Texas. So
got it. And so when you are the middle child, or
I guess you would say that I'm number 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what was it like? I guess when was the moment that you realized that your dad was kind of like a big deal?
That's how I learned how to read. I know that sounds silly.
Yeah.
But the kid, so growing up, I grew up in a really small town called Jefferson, Texas. Okay. And so, it's hard my dad was in Houston, but my mom grew up in Jefferson, Texas, which was near my dad's ranch. So they both remarried. Great life, no complaints there. But in this small town, everyone would walk up to me and be like, hey, so, George Foreman's your dad. So for me, I thought that meant that I was supposed to know kids' parents. So I'd be like, oh, so Mary's your mom. I'd learn, their names and so forth. And then people would just always talk to me. And after a while, I started thinking, this is very young age. I started thinking who is my dad? Because my dad didn't talk about it. He was just a loving guy bringing in the watermelon and coming home and playing. So I started seeing my mom and my grandmother would have newspaper articles. Young age, I would start reading. That's how I started learning to read, because I would be like, well, who is he?
Sure.
But I guess, as a kid, I guess it would be logical just to go ask your parents, who are you? Why are they talking about you? But that's how I learned to read. So.
That's how you learn to read. Yeah, because, he's not just a boxer. I mean, he's a world champ, right? Yeah. First of all. And in order to kind of become a world champ, you have to be an icon and at the top level of what you do. Because there's a lot of kids that have parents that are boxers, but he stepped foot and beat Joe Frazier. He got in the ring with Muhammad Ali. I mean, like he is an icon.
I can't even downplay that. No. I can't say, no. I mean, there's nothing to it, but he's the truth. That's legendary. These guys were legendary.
Yeah. And did you and your brothers and sisters spend time at the gym? Did you watch him or what?
Well, again, the first part of, the childhood, maybe up until about 9 or so. I guess you're right, 8 or 9. Dad was just a dad. And then there was a time where I always tell the story how he sat us all down at the kitchen table, all the Foreman kids. And he tells us that he's going back into the ring to boxing. Okay. And, my brain is like, I don't even know what that means. Sure. I mean, though I've read these things, he's having this conversation that's kind of over our heads, He's like, and I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And he's telling all of us, I'm never going to embarrass any of you. I'm going to remain a faithful husband. And if you do something and you do something, we're all in this together. We all go down. So he's giving us all this responsibility, and I don't know what to think, but, later we find out that Dad's really in the ring. So we're looking at the ring, we're helping him, because boxing, as my dad said, it's a lonely sport. But when you have 10 kids, or at least some kids at that point, because more came after that. Yeah. When you have these kids, we're in the gym, we're helping him count the rounds. My sister Natalie is helping him run on the track. So we've become part of this training camp in some ways. So, yeah.
What a great thing to put into your kids' heads as far as, just the mindset, that positive can-do attitude, right? He didn't say, I'm just going to go back and fight. I'm going to become the world champ again.
Nope. He had a big goal. And, because then along the way, as the story, he gets big, right? First, he's a joke. He's big, he's fat, they're saying, oh, he's a joke to the sport. Well, then he's winning.
Mm.
And then, next thing you know, Dad's on McDonald's holding up the he's holding up the Big Macs. He has on Nikes. He has all these big endorsements.
Yeah.
And he's cashing in. And that could have been it. Then the grill is coming. But he said he was going to be the champion. He didn't stop at any type of amount.
Yeah.
Or there was no money that could have been paid until he did what he set out to do. That is amazing. Like, because who does that? At some point you go, this is good. I don't have to do that, right?
How strong is the mind, right? The mind is so powerful, and it tells the body what we're going to do, right? And he did it. Because I got to imagine, growing up, right? Because he was big in the 70s, and I think you probably were just born.
In 77. That's when his last fight was in 77.
See? So you probably grew up with your dad kind of watching probably Mike Tyson fights and stuff.
Absolutely not.
No?
That is not what my father did.
No,
at that point, you may have read about it or hear about it, but in 1977, he had a religious experience.
Oh, okay.
And so my childhood was in a house where there was no TV. We went to the movies, but we were playing games. My father was extremely engaged, like talking to us and things of that. Let's go fishing. Let's go crabbing. We didn't even watch TV at home. It was not a thing. So to say we saw him, I remember going, sometimes I'd be like, oh, Dad, I saw you on the show, at my mom's house. He wouldn't even comment on it.
No.
That was, so my early childhood was not that. I can remember when the television rolled into the living room. And that was after he told us he was going to be the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, because then he had to watch film on these guys. But before that, there was no TV. So there was never him gloating about his past. I never heard that.
No.
That's why I had to read about it.
Yeah. And back in the day, there's no YouTube or anything, right? You can't go back and watch a lot of his.
I saw him on Sanford and Son, and that's my reference. You know what I mean? Like, I saw you on Sanford and Son. He'd be like, he would never act like it was a big deal.
Yeah. So as an 8-year-old, what were you into? Like, what were you into?
I was just an 8-year-old. Like I said, trying to be Diana Ross.
Yeah. Gonna be the singer. Okay, got it.
But not really. And just being a kid. Like, we grew up like my dad had a ranch.
Okay.
I grew up on 5 acres. So being outside, riding my bike, that was what I was into.
Was school like important for all the kids?
And even when I did graduate from high school, I think I graduated like number 5 in the class.
Is that right?
No, sorry, that's wrong. Let me take it back. It was number 6. Okay?
Number 6, okay.
You know what I mean? So it was like, it's a big deal, but mind you, my school was really small. But, school was important to me. Being into sports, I think I was such a clown. I was actually the school mascot.
Really?
I was a drum major. I've done it all because I was just that person that I was going to try it all. So.
And what was Mom like? Or is Mom still around?
Dad married my stepmom, who is Mary Foreman. Okay. We call her Joan with all love. And she's great.
She's great. And they're back in Texas too?
They're all in Texas and living their best Texas lives. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you graduated high school, and you said, I'm going to Cali. Is that right?
Well, that's what I ended up doing. Initially, I wanted to go to the East Coast.
Yeah.
I really did. But then, I don't know, back then the East Coast wasn't it just wasn't as clean as it is now. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a little like, I don't know. I was a little intimidated by the city.
Yep.
And even my mom was like, I'm not dropping you off in New York City or any of those cities.
No.
And then I came out to visit California, and when I saw Pepperdine, they had a television station, great views. I was like, sign me up. As a matter of fact, this week, they had a camp. My dad, the reason why we had come out to Pepperdine is because the chancellor at the school had, I guess, been to my dad's fight, and he had invited them to him to speak at this seminar that they have every summer. So my dad's done that for many years. That was his first time. So I was just tagging along, like, okay. And when I got to that school, I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going. And I'm proud to say this summer, I'm actually speaking at that same camp. So
cool is
that makes me feel great. Yeah.
That's amazing. Hopefully your dad can come out and witness that, maybe. That'd be awesome.
He's busy, but
hopefully
he gets to come out and speak. So
well, that's amazing. So now you mentioned that, there's a TV program. So did you know what you were wanting to do after high school? You wanted to kind of get into TV?
Yeah, I always wanted to be in TV.
You did?
And I think it really revolved around, that's what I did every morning when I was growing up. Like, you had to watch TV to know what the weather was. You had to, so it was like every morning the TV was on, and I watched the Today Show, and I watched the weather person. So that was like, well, that's what I'm going to do.
That's what you're going to do, right? You said, Good Morning America.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You want to be in front of the TV,
That's
right?
what I wanted to do. And then as college happened, back then, it wasn't like you could, like now, you can be on Instagram, you can have your own show, you could do whatever you want to. I didn't feel like that when, I'd send my tapes out to different places. That never happened. But I was also good at producing. I didn't know what that was called before that, but in school you start doing things, and so I just kept getting producer gigs, and I kept saying, nope, that's not what I want to do, and then here we are doing it. And it works out. Yeah.
And so do you remember like your first gig out of college? Like what when you're like, wow, this is cool, I'm doing what I love?
Oh, I got really spoiled because my first real out of college gig, which was little pay, but I got to work at HBO Sports.
Oh, cool.
And so I got to go to all the boxing matches and all of that, so it was like, oh my gosh, when I think about it, it's like if I could just go back in time and realize what that was. It was like little money, but it was everything. So
what were you doing? So you were traveling on the boxing circuit and kind of covering?
Well, I was living in New York. Okay. So it was
So you ended up
making
it out to the East Coast.
Yeah, so I did.
And
it was great. I had a great experience there. And so, I got to do that. And then afterwards, I ended up working with Dad. Like, I think I stayed there for maybe, 9 months, a year or something like a year.
Okay.
And then I started working with Dad. And at the time, the grill was coming up. So we were helping out. There was so much to do. And I started traveling with him and so forth. And I did that. And then the little girl in me was like, I want to do it on my own. I want to do it on my own. So, trying to figure out my bearings. I taught school for like a year, so I'm trying to figure it out. My grandmother was a teacher, so all those things, you're like, well, I'll try this, I'll try that.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I did that for a year, and I remember at the end of the school year, I said, I can't teach these kids how to go follow their dreams if I won't do it myself.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and so I was like, this was fun. I respect any teacher out there, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And there was a lady that was working with some projects, trying to work with some projects with Dad. And she remembered that I was into TV. And then she says, I know there's this job I'm a little overqualified for. They need like an associate producer. So a national show came to Houston, Texas. It was called Texas Justice, and it was over the top. We bought horses in the courtroom. Anything crazy you can think of, it happened on Texas Justice. And that's when I really got the talk show court bug. Yeah. Because at first I was like, there's no way I didn't think I was going to do it. But, here I am. So
Texas Justice. So that was cool. Like, your roots led back home, right, to Texas. But there was a lot of stuff that you covered in between there, right? So you said the grill, right?
Yep.
How did that even come about?
Well, I don't know the specifics because I'll mess that story up, and that's what I don't want to do.
You don't want to talk about that? Okay.
No, not don't want to talk about it, but I don't want to mess up the specifics.
Okay, got it.
But I will say that the grill was Mary Foreman, Joan, my wife, Dad's wife. Yep. I will give her so much credit because she had to feed these kids, all of us. She would bring the grill out. The grill was sitting under the sink or whatever, wherever you put the thing, under this kitchen cabinet. And she started telling Dad, this thing works. This thing works. So Dad was able to call up the people who had, once given him the grill or whatever, and they made a deal, a small deal that he won big on. So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, they all won big on, let's be clear. So.
Well, because they had your dad that was a big part of it, but then they put so much marketing behind that, right? And I think you worked in the marketing department, right?
So, I mean, I got to help out along the way alongside him. But the biggest thing is with him, it's funny how things change, because I've heard different stories here and there. Mind you, I was younger. But some of it is that, initially they had him just as the boxer on this grill thing, like, oh, that's, that's great. It was selling. But when they put his family on there, like as a family thing, boom, that changed the thing. And then obviously seeing Dad on television, you know, what is that called? That, like, not HSN, but those networks.
The home shopping networks and stuff.
When he gets on there and all of a sudden he's biting into a sandwich and saying, it's good. Those people or anybody who's up watching it is like, I want some, so he sold it.
Yeah. No, that's so powerful, just to be such a part of that and see your dad doing what he loves, and then later on, making a product that is probably in like most homes, so pretty cool stuff.
And that's good. And to add to the grill was one thing, but Dad was able to put his touches on it and make it prettier, put his signature on it. So it became something.
So that was actually even before he came back to boxing, right?
No,
the grill? That was not.
No, that would not have been able to happen without that comeback. Because everybody, as I say it all the time, everybody loves a comeback. Yeah.
Yep. And so that was probably a huge deal for the family, was kind of seeing that comeback, right? Yeah. Amazing.
It's so the whole comeback itself was just life-changing. We went from that kitchen table moment to seeing, okay, Dad's working out, he's winning some fights, to our lives are just changed. Next thing you know, Dad has a television show. He did a show, George.
Okay.
It's called George. Why can't I remember that? Here, him and Shirley Ralph were leads, Tony Danza's show. I mean, so our lives just shifted in a way that is just hard to explain.
Sure. So, so now there was a time that you moved to Atlanta, is that right?
Well, so that was a story in itself. So
I want to hear that, because I lived in, we have a lot in common.
You
right?
did live in How long were you in Atlanta?
I lived in Roswell, Georgia, if you're familiar with the area. We moved from Vegas back when my wife and I had kids, and they were like 4 and 3 years old. And we wanted to kind of raise them in a different area. And so we decided to up and move to Georgia.
Well, I'm curious how you got back here.
Yeah, I'll tell you that story. So we went to Georgia. We were there from 2008 to about 2015. And then my son, who was about 11 years old at the time, woke up one day, similar to you, and said, I want to be on TV. And so we're like, okay. And so I sold my company, and we were going to live vicariously through my one son's dreams, and it brought us out to Hollywood, and here we are. Yeah.
Did he become an actor?
So
he
did. So he ended up pursuing the acting, and he was doing a lot of Disney and Nickelodeon, doing a lot of commercial work, as you do as a kid.
Yeah.
My wife was kind of the mommy manager, taking him all over town. It was so surreal, like all of a sudden it's like, hey, you've got an audition, you got to go to Paramount Pictures or Universal Studios, right? And going through the back lot, not as a tourist, but as like somebody that's going to audition for a major TV show, right? So it was so surreal, and he booked a lot. He never really booked his like debut role where he's like he came very close on a couple things. Stranger Things was one that he came close on, a couple movies. And then he turned 17, and when you turn 17, it's a lot harder to book things because they take like 18-year-olds.
I got it.
You know the world, right? Where you don't have to have a tutor on set. It's a lot cheaper, and so but he'll be 18 in July, and then he'll kick that back off again.
But it sounds like he brought you here.
He did bring me here. He's the reason.
Please tell me. I need to know. Like, how did you get in this seat? Like, how did you start with your own podcast?
So I love this. Look at you in the table here. So as a kid, I would always watch like talk shows. I was going to be a professional baseball player, right? You could not tell me that I was not going to be a professional baseball player, right? And so it was either that or I was going to take David Letterman's job. For whatever reason, I would watch him at night and be like, this guy's got the life, right? He's just himself.
Yes.
And he just brings on interesting people that are all fascinating. And he just sits there and talks to them about life and about just whatever. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, someday, I'll take David Letterman's job, right? And so, my life played out where I did not become a professional baseball player. Instead, I became more of an entrepreneur. I built a business, and then I sold a business, and then I built another business. And the business that I have now is a digital marketing agency. And so that's kind of what I do. I've got about 150, 160 full-time employees.
Wow.
It's a remote company, so we got people from New York to Bulgaria, and everywhere in between. And then this was really, if you build it, they'll come. And so I basically built this studio, and we do all kinds of shoots here. I'll give you a tour of the place in a second, once we're done with this. But this was just me having a vision to be David Letterman and interview people like you coming onto the show here.
Well, did you play sports? Did you
play
baseball?
Yeah, I did. I played baseball. I was a football player, and I wrestled too. So I was very active in sports as a kid. Yeah.
That is so amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
But my biggest thing is the entrepreneurial route. That sounds like most people's like, I'm going to start a business. I don't think that's what people... I don't.
Yeah.
How do you, what was your, this is what I'm going to do? How did you know you had it, first of all, to do that?
Yeah, so as a kid, I thought differently.
Okay.
It's either nature or nurture, I guess, right? And for me, I think it was more nature, where I would be at, a pizza shop at, 12 years old, right? And while most people are kind of enjoying their pizza and thinking about homework in class, I'd be sitting there being like, man, how awesome is this place? They've got 7 people online. Everybody's paying them $6. The location's right by a school, right? So they get all that. So my mind is thinking as a entrepreneur as early as those days, right?
Wow.
And then, and I think, I was just bold. I took a lot of chances. I didn't.
Did you have support? Were your parents oh yeah, here's 50 cents, go do this?
Yeah, the support that I did have. So my mom cleaned houses and my dad wasn't in the picture.
Okay.
So it came from very humble beginnings. My mom would give me, we would go to Costco. It was called Sam's Club, I think, or Price Club is what it was called back in the day, right? And so we go there, and my mom would give me $6 to buy the juicy fruit gums that come in a pack of 12, right?
Right.
And then I would buy that, and then I would sell it, at school, and I'd make double the profit. And so I was doing all kinds of stuff like that, but it was because I didn't want to ask her for money. I wanted to buy my own video games and stuff. And
they say tough times build tough people.
That's right.
I mean, though you sound like you had a good childhood, you had that sense of I don't want to bother my mother. She has enough.
That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
I love that.
Yeah. So, now here we are. I've made a lot of bold decisions, and not everything was perfect. I've made some mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. You fail forward, right? And that's
I'm so proud of you. I really am.
That's so nice of you.
No, I'm serious. I mean, that's a big deal. There's you cannot minimize that type of boldness.
The drive, the hustle,
Can't minimize it.
But I fear for my kids, though.
Yeah.
Right? Because, to your quote, right, they say, hard times, create strong men or women, right?
Right.
But then strong men and strong women create easy times.
Right.
Right? And so I think my kids are kind of living in the easy times.
Yeah.
Right?
But what they see in you, I get it. I understand we think about that all the time. But what they see in you, they'll have that. Take something. At least you left something behind that they can always fall back on.
Sure. Yeah. So that's how I got here and ended up in Hollywood. So now back to your story about Atlanta. What brought you there?
So I was I was wrapped up at Let's Make a Deal, the game show. So there I was doing trade out. So I would, it's a big game show. So I would call different companies hey, we'd like to promote your, whether it's your hotel or whatever it is, your luxury item on our show. Let's trade the prize for airtime. So
and you're in LA working on this.
I'm in LA doing this. So that I was doing that. And then about 5 years into it, it was you can only trade out so much. For me, I was getting bored, I'll be honest. Yeah. Love the show. Probably have never worked at a better situation. Sometimes I go, why did I leave that? You know? But it was just like it was in me to go back to story. So I went to my brother. As a matter of fact, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I have a brother who's in the military, and he was living in Evans, Georgia.
Okay.
So he was out there. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come stay with you for like, I don't know, maybe a month or so to figure it out. And as I'm moving there, I get a job in Atlanta. So and unfortunately, the youngest kid was really just having a tough time. Some of the, when they're younger, she was about 3, 4.
Yeah.
She just wasn't well. So it was like she needed more of my attention. So I actually did not get to live in Atlanta.
You did not?
No, but I got job there and planned on living there.
Okay.
And I never got to. And it was really, I just feel like we're where we're supposed to be. But sometimes it was the one thing of like, man, I wish I had gotten to actually live there. I did stay in Evans, Georgia for like 6 months. So once I was there, I was like, I'll just finish out this time with my brother for some months. And so I didn't get to move to Atlanta. I always thought about it, but this sunshine keeps calling me back. So here we are.
Okay, got it. And so, well, I guess, like you said, everything is meant to be.
Yeah.
And it's what it is, right? Yeah. I like Georgia. It was a good place to raise kids. My kid got into the Walking Dead show.
Oh, yeah. You were right there.
That's right.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And that's kind of why he wanted to be on TV. We'd watch that. And
So why didn't you think we could just do this right here in Atlanta?
You know what? This was he was signed with a group called the People Store, right?
Okay.
So he did have representation there. But we had a manager that was in LA, and then he also had another representation which was in LA, and we just thought that the bigger opportunity was to come out to Hollywood.
Got it.
So
and things have changed since then too.
It sure has.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, it sure has. And what they're doing now in Atlanta, it is Hollywood now. You know what I mean? It's like the second Hollywood, right? Yeah. So. But anyway, we're here and we're still having fun.
That's good.
Yeah. So you were working a lot in court TV, right? Mm-hmm. So you had what was the Texas show called again?
Texas Justice.
Texas
That's
Justice.
Where it all started with Judge Larry Joe Daugherty. It was a mess. But
and so was that like during the same time as like the Judge Judy's of the world?
It was all of that.
It was all happening.
It was all the same time.
Ah, okay.
And they somehow 20th Television got hold to this situation in Houston. I don't know how that came about, but that's what happened. And then from there, I ended up coming back to LA. I don't know how. Just ended up, like I said, coming back to LA. It wasn't planned. So I moved here to LA and I started working at divorce court. Okay. So I did that for a bit. And I've been lucky enough, with these kids and stuff, to be able to take a little time off. So I took some time off, and then there's Judge Alex. And then now I do 6 shows at Entertainment Studios. So
you do?
I'm the supervising producer there. Yeah.
Okay. Where's Entertainment Studios?
Right in the corporate office is in Century City, but it films in Culver City.
Got it. And it's still court TV shows stuff?
6 court TV shows.
Really?
But this one is a little different. There's a little bit of twist on it, but yeah. So.
And so what does a day in the life look like for you? What do you do there?
So I'm basically, to sum it up, I can't tell everything, but I'll just say, before a person goes out in front of that podium, I make sure they know their story. Okay. They're confident about their story. It's going to be clear. It's going to be entertaining, and it's going to be a good time. And they're going to feel good about it. So.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. And there's 6 shows that they record there.
6 different court shows. Prior we were doing 5, but now we're on number 6. We just started with Judge Lauren Lake is our newest addition. She used to be from paternity court, but now she's We the People with us now.
Did you ever have aspirations of going to law school or anything?
How'd you know that?
I'm just...
So funny you should ask.
Okay.
Again, why am I saying that? It's funny. That's one of our shows at Entertainment Studios. I don't work on it, but I keep saying funny you can ask. Okay. So I did. I actually got accepted into a law school. Okay. And last minute, I was like, I was going to go to this law school. And then I just got nervous and scared. I'm not, that scaredness, I was beyond, I already had my first kid. And I moved down to Florida to go to law school. And then I was just like, oh, my God, I'm going to have all this debt. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just got afraid, even though I think it would have been a really good turn for my life, which what I've learned from that is what you're afraid of, do it. Just do it.
Sure.
And if I can't go back in time, I can always move forward if I wanted to do that again.
Right. Yep.
But go for it. Just go for it. And I have to tell myself that every day because I don't necessarily live by that. But because you don't do it enough. You know what I mean? If we all lived by that, do you know how amazing we all would be?
Right.
But there's so much fear in things because you feel like, well, I need to take care of something else, but it's just excuses. Go for it.
Hey, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So I was I was in the Air Force. I did 4 years in the Air Force, and while I was in the Air Force, I was doing community college, right? So the same path my son is going to take. And then I got out of the Air Force and I was going to UNLV, and then I was studying for the LSAT because I too had aspirations of becoming a lawyer.
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, before I do this and go into so much debt, like you said, do I really want to be a lawyer? And so what I did was I reached out to a district attorney, and I told him my story, and I said, I'm thinking about this, but is it okay if I shadow you for a couple weeks? And so they let me shadow. They let me shadow the attorney, and I spent 30 days doing it. And come to find out, I didn't want to be a lawyer, right? Because I had this entrepreneurial thing, right, that I was into. And so I never pursued becoming a lawyer, but like you, right, where you're kind of working on court TV, the path led me to becoming a marketer. Right. And I do marketing for law firms. So that's kind of what my agency does now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. It's so funny you said that because prior to I took some time off and I was living in the DC area, and I met with these amazing attorneys, and they all told me, don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. And so maybe I did the right thing. I don't know. But they were all like, you don't want to do this. Don't do it. Because a lot of them, it's like it's what they do, but not necessarily happy in what they do. So I don't know. But, for me, it's like a little extra something on the resume never hurt anybody. So.
That's awesome. So positive mindset, fitness, those are things that are a big part of your life. And I hear you have a Facebook community that you created. So
listen, I'm like, the struggle is real. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I always tell this story because from after the Atlanta turned off, I didn't get to take that job. Yeah. Literally 2 years, though I was doing different things. I was trying to work on a podcast with my dad type of situation. It was, we got some things in the can, but I was in Houston and I just wasn't finding my zhuzh. It was just I was doing different things, helping, Hurricane Harvey was a big deal there.
Oh,
and trying to help out in communities, reaching out. I was doing everything I can, but I just, it's I don't know what I needed, but I ended up, but I wasn't finding the work in the sense that was making me feel fulfilled. Okay.
Sure.
So I reached out to a friend and that I really forgotten about, I hadn't talked to in years. And I called her up and I'm like, hey, I know you do these court shows at Entertainment Studios. And she goes, I was like, oh, and I'm looking for work. And it was really quick. You know how somebody's picking up the phone that's what she said, okay. And this was end of November. She's like, okay, be here January 7th. And I was like, huh? You know how when you're applying for jobs and then somebody just said, okay, be here. And I was like, oh, she didn't mean that. I was nervous because, one, it didn't give me a lot of time to pack up. Two, did she really mean it? Because she just sounded like she was like, next, I got something else to do.
So she's in LA, you're in Houston.
She's in LA and I'm in Houston. She doesn't hear me properly. She thinks I'm in LA too. I am not in LA. Nothing about me is in LA. I'm in Houston. And then so I'm like, okay. So I don't really trust it because it was weird. So I call her back the next 2 weeks, so you sure? She's like, yeah. Okay, stop calling me, lady. I already said yes. Yeah. So I pack my stuff up, move out to LA, literally get here a day before first day of work, and just start grinding. I really don't even have a place to stay. I found this lady, this place off of Craigslist, and I'm called or one of those lists.
Sure, yeah.
And it's okay, hope we all right. And I start working. That place gave me lots of stories. I wouldn't be able to do my job without those stories that I got to write. But anyway, I get here and it's just such a grind. It's such a grind. I appreciated every second of it, but I wasn't taking care of myself. But I didn't really notice that because I'm grinding and I'm like, yay, I'm back. And I got to do a TEDx talk.
I seen it.
I'm doing it. Thank you. So I'm doing the TEDx talk. And right afterwards, people are sending me pictures, and my hair looks good, my makeup looks good, but I'm like, who's she? Like, I don't look like myself. You know what I mean? Like, it may not be dramatic to anybody else, but for me, I was like, okay. And it wasn't about just physically what you look like, because I'm not a small person now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a person, do not talk to me about food because I love it, right? But it was about, what did that mean? I realized that I was trying to make sure everybody else was good, but I wasn't treating myself well, you know? So fast forward, seeing those pictures, and I was so embarrassed to share that TEDx talk. I didn't want to. And one of my friends, she's a bully. She was like, share it, you know? So I was like, okay, fine. You know, I didn't tell her what was going on with me. And I shared it, and it was such a release. Because what I released at that moment was, who you are at this moment, that's who you are, and that's okay. Yeah. Like, I'd done something great. So many times, all we look at ourselves and we just try to criticize, find something to criticize, you know? I let it go. I let the message do whatever it did. And moving forward, when I was ready to go, okay, let's kind of hone this in. And it took a while. Like, you know, then COVID came and all those things. Let's hone this in. I literally shared it with a few people on my Facebook, like, okay, Will Smith had this thing called Big Willie Challenge. He was like a 12-week challenge. I don't know what happened to him, and I don't know what happened to a lot of people, but after 12 weeks, I actually did it. And so people were like, oh, how did you do it? Because no one did it with me. Nobody. Nobody. After 12 weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, I lost 30 pounds. Like, it wasn't even the pounds. It was like, I'm back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still not all the way where I want to be, but I'm back to a person that I know. So then, I started doing that, and people just inboxing me like, how'd you do it? What did you do? Da-da-da-da-da. And at the time, I was like, I can't tell people what to eat. I don't know. I was just determined. So I talked to my brother, who's, like I told you, he had at the time, his company, Craft Boxing, was just online. So I was like, hey, brother, I'm going to start a Facebook group, and I need some fitness. Can you give me some fitness? And he's like, okay. And then he was like, well, I'll give everybody, like, I was like, can they have like 90 days or something like that? I said 12 weeks. He said, I'll do better than that, 90 days. Okay. We did that. And then I was like, they keep asking me what to eat. I can't tell people what to eat. I don't know. Because I know what you eat and what I eat have nothing to do with each other, you know? So he was like, I have some nutritionist friends. I'm like, great. So he lent me those, you know, the 90 days and his nutritionist friend. And we've been going strong. It's a very small group. It's like a group of like 800 people. But the results are so big, and everyone's there just like holding each other accountable. Like, we're finishing up one of our 12-week challenge at the end of June, and we're just there to remind each other that, so what, you fall down, get up. Like, it's just, don't give up on yourself. And it's so amazing, because most of the people are people that knew me, you know, my whole life. And so everyone's there, and I'm the person they have all in common, but it's in a community, and it's so great to see everybody cheering for each other. So
that's amazing, right? Because a lot of times people just don't have the support, right?
That's it. You know? And it's just, and it's like, no judgment, but come on, it's so funny, because it was like, Georgetta, get fit, get fine. That's where we're at. Georgetta Foreman, get fit, get fine. So GF. So it's fine.
And so, is it a public accountability? You guys all hold each other accountable too?
So we're all holding each other accountable. You tell me what your goals are next weeks, and we just hold each other there. And then sometimes we just hold each other accountable. Also, just encourage one another. So what, you had that cheeseburger and those fries and that milkshake? Maybe you shouldn't do that, but, you know, come on, let's do it, you know, so.
See, and it's so, like you come in, you're like, it's very apparent, like, based on your energy levels, that you have a very clear head, right?
Thank you.
No, I could tell, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, and sometimes, like, I find myself, like down and out, right? You know, you have, like, you get on the health kick, but then you fall off the health kick. Right. Like, it happens so often, right? You're motivated, and all of a sudden you're at an In-N-Out burger and you have that soda. And it's like, all right, well, I cheated once, I could cheat again, right? And you cheat again, then you go down that path. And it really is so, like, powerful how it can change your whole mindset when you're not making the right choices.
As everyone's said, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but is that discipline can take you a whole lot further than motivation. Motivation is great, but if you don't have discipline, forget it.
That's powerful. That's so true.
And that's something I learned from my dad. Like, at the end of the day, to do what he did,
yeah,
that was discipline. I watched it.
Sure.
And not just in the ring, but outside the ring. There's so many distractions. Like I always tell the story, like when he sat us down at that table that day, he literally said the weirdest thing on earth. He was like, I'm going to remain a faithful husband. And as a kid, you're like, okay. Yeah. But that was discipline. He knew what was out in the world beyond our walls. And he was like, I'm not going to let anything mess up this.
My family.
That was it.
Yeah. Huh. Is it true? I watched a video in preparation for this. Your grandpa held up your dad and said, you're going to be the champion someday as a kid. Is that a true story?
True story.
It is a true story.
Weirdest thing. That means, if you ask me, that means we can talk life amongst each other. Sure. You know what I mean? And over your kids. J.D. Foreman, he raised him up and said, you're going to be the heavyweight boxing champ. No, he said,
Not heavyweight, but the champ.
Said, George Foreman, heavyweight boxing champion of the world.
He did. Is that right?
He knew.
Huh.
Or maybe he didn't know, but he spoke it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you think you're just saying something, or you don't even, like, why did I say that? Where did that come from?
What was Grandpa like? Was he into boxing, or was he?
I don't know that.
You don't know.
I would lie to say that. But I would imagine back in those days, a slugger was something everybody was into.
Sure.
You know? So.
Wow. How awesome. Well, it's great that you're inspiring people still. Maybe I can get an invite to this private group and you can help me
just join.
I need the I got the motivation, but it is the discipline.
It's the discipline. Yeah. And we all have the motivation. I see it. You're here, so that's motivating. So that's
it. What are some of the stories from the group that you want to share? Sometimes you see people that are like pre-diabetic, and all of a sudden they start working out and they get healthy again, and they don't have to take medicine anymore. Or any cool stories like that you want to share?
Absolutely. I'm gonna get it wrong. But the same thing is sometimes it's like, like you said, the pre-diabetic. My levels are off. But look at me, like in this with the 6 weeks or 12 weeks challenge. They're like, my numbers are great now. Or you're seeing some people who are like, my back was messed up and I couldn't move around, but they finally find the oomph to figure out something, to make something happen. And, you have like 50-plus-year-old women in this group who are now showing off like, yes, I have this on and I feel good about myself. Because it's not always about looks, but so many. Or you see someone that goes, look, now I'm double dutching and I'm in this group and look at me now. Like everyone, it's the feel good, look good. Yeah. But definitely that feel good, because I don't care what you look like. If you don't feel good, what does it matter? So a lot of that in the group, and everybody in the group is not all about weight loss, No,
of course
Some of the people are like, I've shaved off time in my marathon run, and now I'm running marathons. I wasn't doing that before, so it's been great.
And what about like mental health? Like, how do you stay balanced with? I'm sure working out helps with that, right? But do you meditate? Is there any other things you do?
I don't meditate,
you don't.
But I'm a praying one of prayer. And I do believe in being quiet.
Yeah.
You think that's easy, but the way the phone goes off and the Instagram feeds and sometimes you got to just shut it off.
Just shut it off. Tune things out for a bit so you can kind of be with yourself, huh?
Yep, and be with yourself. And then you'll be surprised, I don't know, you as a parent, that sometimes you'll go, you think you were with your kids, but are you with them?
Yeah.
This as a parent, like sometimes shutting that out and bringing the things that matter back in.
Yeah.
Whether it's your kids or your family or somebody like, let me call this person. So I am really blessed with people that are close friends and beyond friends, just with community of people that, believe it or not, like I think as a small, and again I'm saying all these things, I don't want it to sound like, but we are better together.
Oh, for sure.
Like this world right here, we can fight any battles together. By yourself, it's hard. Because you could box yourself in a box and you can't. You can look left, you can look right. Yeah. You can't get out. Yeah. But if you look left and there's Sally and there's John and there's somebody can say, hey, did you see that crack over there?
That's right. Yeah. Support yourself with the right tribe, right?
That's
Surround yourself with them, right? Because that's who you will be like, is the people that you hang out with. It's not a myth. That's truth.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Which I still need new friends, so you're one of them now.
Hey. I'm in. I am so in. All right. So what do you think is your biggest motivation in life?
You know, it's so funny. You just said mental health. I've always understood mental health. I've known family members that struggle or people that struggle. So I've always been I've never drank because I'm afraid. Like I'd never drugs, any of those things, because I'm so like, this is all I have.
Sure.
I've seen when people don't have it, nothing else matters. So no, like, if anybody else, they can do what they want to, but that's just my stance on things, because I'm just so afraid to lose that.
Sure.
And that's the one thing. So if you ask me what my motivation is doing my best for everyone around me to be all right.
Yeah.
And not just around me, like my little circle of people, but if I can help in the whole grand scheme of things, like remind everybody of why they matter, why they need to be here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Every day you wake up, it's showtime, right? whoever you're going to speak to, you know, if you're going to buy somebody coffee behind you, right? It's just
give.
Right? It just makes you feel better, right?
Yeah.
The more that you give back.
And it's not money is cheap. So everything is not about money.
Totally not.
Nope.
Yeah, because like, you know, like when you look at like the Oprahs of the world, or the, you know, the Bill Gates of the world, you know, like how much money do you really need? You know, like, I mean,
but
how many, right?
To be said, with that said, I want money. I like money, and there are a lot of things money can do.
That's right.
You know, and I think I love the Bill Gates and the Oprah and all those world, because they have it to give.
That's right. That's what you do with it at that point, right?
Yeah.
You start making enough, like, okay, I've got a house in Santa Monica. I've got a house in here, there, right? You know, but what's left? Like, I want to kind of give back, right? Yeah, and they do.
Yeah, they do.
And they do. So we like to end our segments with a thing called Hennessey Heart-to-Heart.
Okay.
It's where I just ask you questions, and then you just answer with whatever's on your mind.
Well, okay. I'm a little scared.
Nothing to be scared of. Yeah. What makes you smile when you're having a bad day?
What makes me smile? Memories. Just memories of I've had a good life. And I don't care what you've been through. If you can have a couple good memories, that can take you a long way.
Yeah, that's good. Who in your family do you feel the closest to?
Well, I have to say my children.
Yeah.
And both of them. I just something about those girls. They are everything. And of course, everybody else, I love you, love my dad, all those things. But those girls right there, they get me. They are me.
I look forward to meeting them someday. Do you think there is an age where people should be settling down?
You mean like marriage?
Yeah.
Ha, ha, ha. I tell my kids it's 30.
30?
I tell them 30.
Okay.
And that's for women because I'm a woman. I can't speak for a man because I don't know men, okay? I'm not a man. I do know men, but I'm not a man. So I just tell them because for me, that gives you a time to enjoy life, build you an education, figure out what you like, who you are, have some experience, and then go, I'll do this. That's my thought.
That's a good age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although my daughter's not allowed to get married.
Right.
Is there something you think a lot about parents that they do that negatively impacts children? Like maybe things
They don't listen to their children. They talk at them and they expect them to just do. But they are children. Like, they are real people. Though they're small people, they're real people, real thoughts. Like, you just jumped out with your son and said, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
That was positive.
Sure.
But had you said, go sit down somewhere, or didn't hear him, listen, not everybody can jump up and go to Hollywood with their kid.
Sure.
But even if you were a parent, we say, well, tell me about what kind of roles you want to do. Just listening and engaging and treating them like real people.
Being present.
Being present,
yeah. I had a story I'll share with you. So I'm sitting at my home office just working. My daughter and my wife go to like a birthday party, and my daughter's like, 4 years old at the time. And so you go to this birthday party, and they're away for like 2 hours, and it's a Saturday morning. I'm like, okay, I'll be able to catch up on some emails and stuff. And so I'm doing that. And then they come home, right? And my daughter comes running in my office, and she's like, Daddy, look what I made. And she had made this like slime at this birthday party, and it was really cool. And she was so proud of it because you got to put beads in your slime and all kinds of cool things.
Yeah. Right? Slimy.
And so she was so excited about it, and she came running in my room, and I looked over at her, right, because I'm in the middle of writing an email that's important, right?
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my God, that's awesome, that's so good, right? And then I went back to my desk and I started working, right? But I wasn't living in her moment, because that was a big deal for her, and I didn't make that my big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And I think as parents, we do that a lot. Whether you're on the phone or texting somebody or dealing with a work issue, and something happens to your child that's such a big deal, and it's just not your big deal at the
totally
moment,
get it. My master Kindle reminds me all the time.
Huh.
You didn't pay attention. You didn't really see it. So I'll go, okay.
Yeah. But it's important for us parents to recognize it.
True.
So that, anyway, so I keep slime on my desk now.
Aww.
And it's a reminder, right?
I love that.
Yeah, it's just a reminder. What keeps you up at night?
My brain just doesn't go off. I literally have to be like, go sleep. Or like so tired that when I fall out, I fall out.
Dead, right?
It doesn't matter. I could be right in that corner. You go, what just happened? She left. So but it's just I have so many thoughts and ideas, because again, it's like I live. I'll just say it. I live so small.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's so many possibilities, and so that'll go everywhere, and you just. And it's not just about myself. It's because you want to do something to even show somebody else that they can do something.
Sure.
Because you can't tell me unless you know, And so that keeps me up. But other than that, like, I have a lot of peace. I know there's a lot of things that go on in the world. There's so many issues in the world that I have to turn it down and go into prayer. Because there's so many issues. Like, if you sit and watch news long enough, which I know when I was visiting a lot of people in Houston, like the elderly community, they're afraid to go outside.
Oh yeah, it's
because
scary.
They're watching
it's like a scary world out
It's
there.
like the mailbox is a thing for them. So I'm not going to get stuck that I can't even go to the mailbox, So you have to learn how to pray, do what you can. If you can do something, do it, and then turn down.
Okay, I like it. Would you rather be an expert at one thing or average at a lot of things?
My dad told me, and I didn't understand it. I had no clue what he was talking about. He was like, you got to be an expert. He told me that when I was younger. I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, an expert? What you mean? Like, an expert.
Just be an expert at one thing.
Be an expert. I've learned a lot of things, but if I were an expert at something, I'd be valuable.
That's it. Find your passion and live with it. Who was your role model growing up?
If I really am going to be honest, obviously my dad was such a big person.
Sure.
So it's hard not to say he was my role model. And but also my grandmother. She was just an educator, not just an educator. She was an educator. And she lived her life with so much class. And so mind you, my grandmother would be like 90-something now. So think, this was a woman, she was married, 4 children. She was living in she was from Texas, but she lived in Chicago. She was brave enough to leave her husband, which at that time, I talked to a lot of women, people couldn't do that.
Sure.
She left the situation, didn't work for her. Left, went to college, finished her education, got her master's degree. This is long before I was born. So master's degree back in those days, and took a job in a small town, Jefferson, Texas, and made a whole life for herself and inspired so many people in her community. So just the tenacity and the audacity to do those things, that means a lot to me. Sure. And she was always giving. I remember there would be maybe a family of people that you may see on the side of the roads. And I can remember, there was no cell phones when I was younger. I remember her getting back home, getting on the phone like, hey, Letha, hey, she would call her friends. Next thing you know, there would be pies and everything. They would find those people down the street and she would have food, She was it was every thoughtful, giving, kind, she just had it. It was just nothing to her. It wasn't extra work. It's just what she was.
Inspiring. That's your mom's mom?
Yes.
Mom's mom. Mm-hmm. And what's her name?
Doris Gross.
Doris. Mm-hmm. So your mom and dad both grew up in Franklin? Is that where they were both from?
Franklin. Jefferson, you mean?
Oh, Jefferson. I take that back.
No, my dad grew up in Houston, Texas.
In Houston.
But, he went away to the Job Corps, and they met because my father has a ranch in Marshall, Texas. So after his first boxing career, he thought he was going to be a cowboy, and he has become a cowboy. So that's where they met. My Jefferson is nearby, Marshall, Texas, where his ranch is. So.
Got it. What do you like most about yourself? It's a hard question. But
no, not really. I think I'm funny sometimes. I like that I like to smile. I like that I enjoy food and friends.
Yeah.
I just like that I'll do it. If you say you do it, I'll do it.
Got it. What are some qualities that you wish you had?
I'm going to talk to you because you're going to help me. I wish I could be an entrepreneur. I wish I could turn my brain on and you could help me be a business person. I wish I had that.
Yeah.
I find that so amazing.
Yeah.
So that's a superpower I wish I had.
So there's speaking of TED Talks, I watched a TED Talk recently.
Yes.
About being bold versus being smart. Right? In some cases, entrepreneurs are very bold, but not very smart because they just kind of do things, right? Sometimes smart people end up talking themselves out of doing bold things, right? And so, it's a general rule, right?
Yeah,
it's a good TED Talk. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't have, I was not number 5 in my class. I barely graduated high school, kind of a thing.
That's because you probably just didn't apply yourself.
That's right.
It wasn't because you weren't capable. I wasn't trying, but I get it, you know?
But I would always make bold moves, right?
Yeah.
You know why? I guess because when you come from nothing, you got nothing to lose, right?
I love
so
that.
that was the mindset I always had kind of growing up. But here's the key. If you're bold, surround yourself with smart people. That's important, right? And that's the secret to, I guess, my success, if you will. Yeah.
Okay.
I surround myself with very smart people. Let's see here. What was the best time of your life?
I don't subscribe to that because I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, I've had some good times, good moments, good time. And I just like to live in the now to know that this is the best it's going to get today. I've had my childhood and some good times, but I've had some great times. I can't say a best time. I really can't. And I refuse to because I don't even know what's going to happen next. I have a feeling the life's going to get better.
Oh, for sure. Right? And just because it talks up here, it's going to make it reality, right? That's how it works, right? What you believe and manifest comes true. Yep. I feel the same way, right? Every part of life is just a different chapter of the book, right? That's so true. What's the best advice someone has ever given you?
Ooh, I know Dad's given me a lot of advice, and I can't think right now. I don't know.
We can come back to that.
We're probably going to come back to that.
Okay. That's a hard one, right? If you had to go back to school, what would you study?
You would think I knew by now. I still don't know. I'm not, I still don't know. Sometimes I go, I'll just do that law thing. Sometimes I'm clear on that. And then the other thing is I really have a big passion about mental health. I really do. And I've tried to take classes in biology and health to become a doctor. But then I realized, well, that's going to take a lot of work, to get my brain turned in that way. I'm a storyteller, but the way the algebra works, I don't know. So, but I really wish I'd have set out to be a doctor. But
got it. If you had to plan the perfect day, what would be something that you definitely would include in your day? Could be food.
It's always food. So, okay. Plan the perfect day. It would be simple. I'd probably be sitting by the beach. Something I would include in it. A lot of things going here. Sitting by the beach. I'd probably be eating blue crab wrapped in avocado and salmon.
Specific. I love it.
And with a side of watermelon and just good water. I mean, maybe a watermelon slush or something, but that's it. And just be around the people that I love, watching them laugh. I just like everyone to have a good time.
I love it. Do you have any superstitions?
I don't. I'm not superstitious at all.
No.
But the biggest thing is a rule that I've do unto others.
Yep.
And so I figure you live by that.
Sure.
As you want them to treat you, that situation. So
yeah, that's
not superstition. I think that's everything.
So my only superstition is I have this number that follows me everywhere.
What?
Yeah, it's 3 digits. It's the number 127.
What do you mean it follows you? Is it in here now?
It might well be.
It might pops up. Please make me understand.
All right, it's not 127 yet.
All right.
It's close, but that would have been really weird. No, it's just a number, right? It follows me. Right? I was born on January 27th. It's the first 3 digits of my social. I'm not going to give everybody else the rest of it here, right? My son was born on October 27th, 127. When I got my first job working on the radio, I was a radio personality. I worked on 127, right? It's just the weirdest thing, right? And they call it your angel number, right? And so if you research it, people have angel numbers, and I didn't know this. And so when I researched it, it's just how I interpret it. It's a sign from the higher powers that be to encourage you that you're doing something right and to keep moving forward, right? So
I love that. So sometimes you'll just look around and you'll be on a document or something, it's
time.
127.
Last night we went to dinner, and there was 127 that was on the bill. You know what I mean? It just random things like that.
So you're I'm good.
Yeah. So that's the only superstition I think that I've got is this weird number that follows me everywhere. Do you believe in a higher power?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. When are you happiest?
I think I'm happiest when I don't know. That's a good question. I would lie. But I think I'm happiest mostly when I have both my girls with me.
Sure.
And everybody's good. And I hate to just limit it to my circle. But that's what it is. It's literally I put the phone, I love everybody else. But if somebody's you didn't answer your phone, and I'm why?
Yeah.
The 2 people that I'm literally came in this world that I have to protect are right here.
Yeah.
Everything else, they should call 911.
Yeah. No, lazy Sundays when the family's sitting around watching TV or doing whatever, you know what I mean? Just kind of together as a family. I think that makes me happiest as well. And the last question here, what is something that you're most proud of in your life?
Something that I'm most proud of is being able to show my daughters, every time I do something like this, to show them mom's here, mom's present, and she's trying. Because I know, I'm only a woman, that's going to only speak about that, is that I know life will continue to knock you down. And it's not because it's just what it is. But you got to keep getting up. And I learned that from my father. I watched him really, really get up in a way that I never thought I would. And I think that's that most people can't even phantom on a big stage and have a comeback, from nothing to something and then fall back down and have the will and, the will to just do it again.
Yeah.
I want my children, because, they're going to, most people can't be a boxer. Mm-hmm. That's just not going to happen, okay?
Yeah.
But you can be a regular, everyday person who just keeps saying, okay, I'm going to try and get up. So that's what I'd like to leave for my daughters. I've done probably more wrong than right.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Do your girls ever go back and watch some of your dad's old fights?
I actually don't know.
No, huh?
I really don't know because they're young. They're so much younger. They're like, oh, he's cool.
But the history.
There's like his.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember both of them have done reports in school on him, and I think they think it's cool.
Yeah.
But they love him.
Yeah.
So to them, that's like.
Yeah.
They just it's a part of their everyday situation. They don't know what I'm talking about when it was like, no, wasn't like that before, So.
Not like it's the same thing or anything, but my kids don't watch my podcast shows.
Right. They're like, we know them.
Well, Georgetta, I really appreciate you coming down to the studio to be on the show. For those that want to keep up with you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm like everybody else. I'm on TikTok. Okay. No, I'm not. Take it back. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know why I said that. That's like dreams and aspirations in my head, I guess. But no, I'm on Instagram, Georgetta Foreman, Facebook, Georgetta Foreman, and then please join me at Georgetta Foreman. Get fit, get fine. Yep. I think you'll find it fun. Mm-hmm. And we're coming up on the end of our 12-week challenge, so that's it. Like I'm pretty easy breezy, but so.
Well, I will be one of those that join that group. So yes, and we'll have to get together for lunch or something soon.
I want to just leave by saying thank you. I feel like I talked way too much on here. I just want to let you know that in my head, this was going to be a whole lot more fun. I really enjoy hearing your stories. So I wish you'd have told more.
Thank you.